Welcome to Trade the Trend, a weekly video about where the stock market is going. This video is going to focus on the SP 500. I'm going to cover the ASX 200 as well as copper, gold and uranium in a separate video. I'll leave a link for that in the description section below. I'm also going to have a look at the small caps, so make sure you stick around for that. As always, this is general commentary, doesn't take your personal situation into account. With all that said, let's get into our first chart. So going to start with the S&P 500, and overall the price action remains constructive. S&P up so far for the week, but really it's generally been moving sideways since late December, and I think that's completely normal, a completely normal thing to see given the strong rally that we've had off the October low. It's big moves often lead to consolidations. It's just part of the market's ebb and flow. I think the odds here favour that we see more consolidation over the next several weeks. It's not often you get these 7% advances in a couple of months. It really was quite an extraordinary move, an exceptionally strong period. And it's likely, I think, going to take some time for the market to consolidate those gains. Moving averages, looking at those, I've got the 50 and the 100-day moving averages on the chart, and they continue to move upwards, which again is positive. But I still think they've got some catching up to do. The market is still reasonably elevated above those averages. And a pause in the trend, it really does give those averages a little bit more time to get a little bit closer to the current price. Another thing I want to do, which I think is interesting to consider, is I want to put on an RSI, a relative strength indicator, and I'm using a 14-day RSI. And when we look at this, you can see it peaked at a quite a high level. It doesn't normally get up above 80 when you're looking at these 14-period RSIs for an index. It's quite an exceptionally strong move. It peaked above 80 and it's since been declining, been pulling back over the last few weeks. And when you look at these charts, when you look at some RSI studies, what you'll notice is that once the RSI peaks up at around 80 and starts to pull back, it will often pull back to at least 50, being the midpoint. Often see that move back towards 50. And now this isn't always the case, of course. Nothing is always the case when it comes to assessing price actions. And you don't need to go back too far. You can just come back to this period in June where we can see the market was up towards 80, started to pull back, but didn't come back to 50 before having another run at overbought levels. But as a general proposition, when you compress the price chart and you look at these elevated points, you'll see that more often than not, and you can do this in your own time, just pull up a chart, go back over time, and you'll see that more often than not, it does come back towards 50 once the declining phase has begun. So should that happen again, well, I think then that, of course, indicates that the market would see some more consolidation before potentially having another test higher in the weeks ahead. And if the S&P 500 was to make a new high here and now, it's unlikely this RSI would then follow, which then of course opens up the prospect of divergence, which would be another reason for a little bit of wariness around the price action over the next few weeks. Like, will a larger consolidation be kicking in? I don't think this is an asymmetric entry point when we look at the current pricing for the S&P 500. I'd really like to give this just a little bit more time, just to see whether a larger consolidation does start to develop. Having said that, of course, though, the trend is up. The trend remains up. I don't think this is a time to take profits. I think it's a time to keep holding stocks that have been rising. Keep holding stocks which are in uptrends, and then using a trailing stop that gives them plenty of room to move around. So the strategy behind that is to try and see off any potential consolidation. So if the market does dip lower towards these moving averages, it does give you the potential of seeing off the consolidation and hopefully staying on a larger upward trend. That would be the play here, rather than taking profits on the assumption that the market's going to pull back. Because of course, I could be completely wrong. Maybe the market does keep running, so I want to maintain my exposure. And then I'm looking for stocks that are pulling back towards moving averages and then rallying off those moving averages for potential new opportunities. Quick look at the Nasdaq. Very much the same situation here. It's been a big run off these lows. The question is, are we going to see another pullback towards those moving averages and some more consolidation, potentially produce some sort of a platform from which the market can then rally off in the as we head into maybe the end of the first quarter, maybe into the second. It's quite possible we do get several more weeks, maybe a month or more of consolidation before another upward advance. But of course, that's just speculation. That's not a prediction, because we just don't know how these things will play out. But we're looking at the possibility that a consolidation could play out for a bit longer. And then I think it's a case of just maintain those long exposures and being selective about adding to new positions whilst we're in this potential consolidation phase of the market. Now, if you're getting some value from this, please hit that like button, leave a short comment, just hey, thanks for the video, it just shows YouTube you're watching, and then YouTube will do what it does and show other people, which helps a lot. So please do that and click that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Now, I just want to quickly wrap up with a look at the small caps, look at the Russell 2000. And I think the price action in the last week has been constructive. So far, it looks like the dip is being bought. So we've had the pullback from the December high. Looks like it's starting to find some support and interest in buying that dip. It was interesting just to see on Thursday that the market did break below its low from last week, briefly dipped below before snapping back to close higher. Only really short-term price action, but it is one of those signs that there is interest in accumulating stock on this pullback rather than the distribution we were seeing last year. So every time the market would be high, it would be quickly sold into. There weren't really any pauses in the price action. It's still early days, but it does look like there is some signs that the dip is being accumulated, not distributed. I think this has, when you compress this chart and you look at the price action over last year and into much of 2022, I think that's got the potential of being a big basing structure. Several weeks of sideways price action. If we were to get the market to chop sideways to lower over the next several weeks, I think that would be positive, and it would then consolidate those gains we've had off the lows from October, and then potentially set up a platform for another test higher and for a sustained break out of this range, which the market has spent 18 months in. For now, I think the play is to, as I was saying with the SP 500, is to keep holding stocks that have been working, keep holding stocks which have been rising, and then watch how this price action plays out over the next several weeks. Does a larger consolidation develop, or is it going to be a short pause and then up? But the advantage of holding stocks with wide trailing stops is that you can potentially then see off that consolidation, stay with the broader trend, and hopefully if we do get that consolidation, that's where the next opportunities potentially come from. So as I was saying, I'll be looking for stocks that pull back towards moving averages, that are breaking out of compression ranges, and then starting to rally off moving averages. So look, let's call that a wrap for this week. Thank you for joining me. It's been great having you with me. Hopefully that's been interesting. Hopefully it's been helpful, and look forward to coming back, talking to you next week. Till then,